It's so good to see a full room, and hopefully if you all enjoy this, you'll talk to your colleagues about coming out on the next seminar on the 26th. It would be great to have more people participate, and obviously your partners, your teenagers or whatever are also welcome to these talks so that we can talk about cybersecurity, something that affects us all, certainly. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Brian Epstein. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the Network and Security Officer here at the Institute for Advanced Study. I've been here for about 17 years. And today we're going to talk a little bit about cybersecurity and how you can protect yourself in these days of the internet. Whenever I talk about internet security, I talk about the three main principles that I have incorporated in my logo here. And that's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And just by a quick show of hands, how many of you feel that confidentiality is the most important of those three? And how many of you feel that integrity is the most important?
That's a loaded question.
And how about availability? Yeah, okay, so I'm with the availability folks here at the Institute. And the reason that I'm able to say that is because this isn't a bank. This isn't a government or something where we have a lot of secrets to keep. A lot of your work is public work that's out there. And I'm not saying that confidentiality and integrity isn't important, but unlike other institutions that you may have been at, where the security officer is just a big red light to tell you stop, you can't do that. That's not who I am. And that's not the kind of team that we run here. Instead, I'm the yellow blinking light, the warning light, if you will. I want you to get your work done. If you're not getting your scholarly pursuits done, then I'm not doing my job. And so availability is my number one concern for all of you. So don't feel afraid to bring up a topic or to discuss something, because we will find a way that you get access to what you need in order to do your work. So just think about that. We're unlike your home institutions, some of your home institutions that they're like, no, no, no. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we secure things here at the Institute. And I like to use the castle mentality or the castle metaphor, if you will, on how we protect things. So this is Harlech Castle in Wales. And we basically take all of our network resources and we protect it much like you would protect a castle. So you can see there in the middle of the castle is the campus workstations, the servers, the things that you're working on. And you can see the internet has to go over our moat on the drawbridge, and we've got our arrowmen up on the turrets, shooting arrows and making sure that only the good folks come in. And we even protect the devices that you brought yourself. So those devices we have no control over, those are under your control, and we put them out here in our outer ward. So you're protected within our kingdom, but definitely not as protected as if you were inside of our castle walls. And so we deploy the latest technologies and things of that nature in order to help secure you and make sure that your work is safe here and available to you. However, the majority of hacks out there, the majority of hackers and malicious people trying to get in, they're not really focused on our castle or our castle walls, because that's pretty strong. What they're focused on is in the office, and it sits in this chair. And that's you and me. And so today's talk, I really wanted to discuss how we're being attacked and how we can sort of save ourselves and save the rest of the Institute too, because if one of your accounts gets hacked, that puts us all at risk. And so that's why it's very important that, for the attitudes of, well, I don't really have anything, so I really don't care if my account gets hacked. Well, it does impact everybody around you. So let's think about that. So, it's important for us to be diligent about thinking about, our security and privacy while using the computer. How do we keep our data private, right? Do we take our sweater and just, put it over the laptop like this? It probably will save you in some situations, but probably not all of them. So how can you protect yourself? Well, the primary thing is to educate yourself, and you're all here. And so I really appreciate that, because you either started or you're continuing that journey to educate yourself as to what you can do to protect yourself. This is the security website that we have here at the Institute. It's just security.is.edu. On that website are a lot of resources to help you keep yourself protected. And that's anything from free software to keep your computers protected to free advice. You know, as new breaches come out, like, you know, the LastPass breach that recently came out, Equifax in 2017 that stole all of our social security numbers and all of our financial data and things of that nature, the Facebook hacks, the Twitter hacks, or sorry, the X hacks, all of those things coming out, I write blog entries on, and basically I tell you what I did because of that. As not as a technical computer person, but just as a citizen or a person here in the United States, the things that I do to protect myself, like freezing your credit, for example. Now, the next is how to protect your personal devices, right? I'm sure all of you bring a personal device, a cell phone, something here on our campus. So how do you keep those things protected? You know, there's a lot of different ways to protect a machine. First things first, if you're given an IS computer, we protect that for you, so you don't really have to worry about those. It's the devices that you bring that you are responsible for. Those are the devices that we're gonna kind of talk about here. So the first thing to do is back up your work, right? Anybody here heard of ransomware? Anybody available know what ransomware is? So yeah.
Yeah, like hospitals, they go in and they say, pay us, you know, $10,000 or we'll wipe your
That's right.
servers clean.
That's right, and $10,000 is really cheap. The ones that I see from my colleagues are in the millions of dollars. Yeah, and so basically the idea is they hack into your computer and then they encrypt all of your files. And then they're like, hey, you want the password to open your files again? All that work that you've put into place, you gotta pay me for it. And then you pay them for it and they give you like a couple files and they're like, nah, you can pay us more. And they never actually give you all your files back. The only clear way to protect yourself from ransomware is offline backups. You need to make sure that your work is backed up. If you're using your drive that we provide you here at the Institute, we do this for you. We back it up in the cloud in a read-only partition. Nobody can edit that. If we're hit with ransomware, we can pull that back down at a moment's notice. And that's how you protect yourself. If you're keeping your files somewhere else, you know, whether it's on a laptop or a time machine or, you know, whatever, that's your responsibility. Make sure that you're keeping that safe and protected from ransomware. Ransomware is the #1 debilitating attack that my colleagues are seeing at other schools and universities. So that's why I talk about ransomware here. If you have more questions about ransomware, and you know, we're a small group, feel free to yell out questions if you have them. You know, it's kind of informal.
Excuse me.
Yes.
How should we feel about Dropbox?
Yeah, so Dropbox, right? So Dropbox is a way that you can store your files in the cloud, right? And Dropbox has a number of different tiers. There's a free tier, a paid tier, et cetera, et cetera. You know, your file, it's a name brand, it's very well known. They've had their issues, just like everybody else has had their issues, and they fixed them. We actually purchased Dropbox here, and we have it available for our staff and faculty and members. So, you know, talk to your IT department if you want to utilize that. And the convenience is stellar. It's so nice to be able to pull out all of your devices and all of your files are synced together. So I would say that it's probably fine to use. You know, make sure that you look at the security check marks, make sure that you use a very secure passphrase for that. If they offer multi-factor authentication, use that, protect your account, and make sure that you're not reusing that password on other services. But it should be fine otherwise. Yeah. Great question. Yeah.
Some provocative question. Have you heard about individuals who are ransom?
Who are ransom? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So individuals that are ransomed as opposed to organizations, definitely heard about that. And it breaks my heart because the majority of them are people who are my parents' age. That are not as technically savvy, as we are, and definitely not as our kids are. And that's what breaks my heart because, you know, they're the ones who are targeted there. The next thing is keeping your device up to date. I know it's a pain. You get that update thing and you're like, bother me later. I don't have time for this. I'm in the middle of stuff. And what I recommend is what our ancestors did, right? They waited for a rainy day and then they sat around sharpening their tools. They had nothing else to do, they just sharpen their tools. I challenge you, pick a day once a month where you sharpen your tools. You get out your phone and you update it. You get out your laptop and you update it. Just schedule the hour to just do those things, because it's as soon as you don't update these devices anymore, that's when they get in and they hack it. So definitely sharpen your tools day. The other thing is antivirus, or as I call it, anti-malware, anti-malicious software, software, you know, these things that you install on your Windows computers, right? How many Windows users do I have here today, right? How many Mac users, right? We don't need antivirus for Mac, right? No, you absolutely need antivirus for Mac. Macintosh has overtaken the market much faster than Windows, and you know, definitely needs antivirus as well. If you're interested in learning more about what software is available free to cheap for Macintosh antivirus, just go to the website security.is.edu. I have a list. For Microsoft, for Windows users, Microsoft Defender, their own product, has matured significantly over the past 5 years and is my #1 recommendation for Windows users at this point. So you don't need to go out and buy McAfee or, you know, whatever else. Just use the one that's built in. It's good enough.
What about
And
Linux?
say that again.
What about Linux?
Yeah, so Linux, there's a couple different software versions of Avira that's really good for Linux. I'm a Linux user, have been for over 2 decades now. I'm running Linux right now. So definitely recommend looking into that. I have a bigger list on the website for Linux users, but absolutely, you know, even your Android phone, your iPhones, like, you know, there's antivirus software or anti-malware software out there. So definitely take a look at that. Great question. Right. So here's one that really gets people all the time. Budget for new devices, right? These devices, you can't replace the battery in them anyway, right? I mean, you got to get a heat gun and scrape the battery out, and you break the screen, and you know, the whole thing. These things are designed for 2 to 3 years, and the manufacturers know that because they want your money. They want you to buy a new one, and they stop updating the software. And you know, if you think to yourself, boy, I haven't updated my phone in a while. This is great. I don't have to waste my time. That should be a flag that maybe it's time to update the device. And so what I say is budget for a new device every 4 years, right? Put the money aside, a quarter of what it costs for a new laptop, for a new phone. Put that money aside so that when it happens and that device isn't updatable anymore, you're ready and you don't have to panic because you don't have the money saved up. And I'm running into this right now where purchased my Android device, a Pixel 5, 3 years ago. This is the last month in which it's supported. After this month, no more security updates. And so I just had to go out and buy a really expensive phone for myself and my team. So fun times. But before you throw that old device away, make sure to take a look at it. Your personal information's on it. You need to wipe that device. You just throw it away, somebody else is going to pick it up and they're going to be able to get to your files, your pictures, your documents, your passwords, et cetera, et cetera. There are easy ways to securely wipe that device. Again, take a look at the security website. We have how to do that. Or if you just don't have time to do it, just call us, you know, call your IT help desk. We'll help you out with that. But absolutely, you need to wipe it. I just had a phone that died because of water damage, so I couldn't turn it on to wipe it, and I actually had to take it apart and smash all the little bits inside. again, to keep you protected because it had my credentials in there. So definitely take a look at that. You know, or you can repurpose that old phone, right? So we've all been in this situation, right? Your darling dearest is at the restaurant and just won't chill out. And you're like, all right, fine, play Angry Birds on my phone. Just be quiet, right? We've all been there. And then what happens when Angry Birds, when they fail? Smash, right? Or they drop it, or they accidentally send your boss an email, or they see that text message they weren't supposed to see, right? We've all been there. This is a perfect opportunity for that old device, right? You give it to the kid, they're not checking their bank account, they're not doing anything that requires the secure, you know, sort of thing that you need, but they can play Angry Birds and they'll be just fine with that. Certainly, if you can't afford that other phone, or you need that other phone for something else, or you traded it in to get a deal or something like that, you know, that's perfectly fine. Another thing you can do is, at least on Android phones, you can set up different accounts on the phone. So, you know, before I hand my phone to my daughter, I switch accounts on the phone. Then it just has her apps. My apps are totally separate. You can't touch them. And it keeps it secure. Apple devices have the ability to do that, but they only turn it on for their educational devices. I don't know why. But, you know, again, just have another phone. You know, and the same goes for that critical work computer that you have back at your apartment. Yeah, Dale?
How about like, I don't know if I'm saying this right, VPN, like DuckDuckGo?
Yeah,
Is that a layer?
yeah, we'll go through VPN in a second. But
Okay,
that's a good question. In this situation, that won't help you. But that is a good question. So, you know, not that little Timmy here isn't doing anything that we don't think to do sometimes with these frustrating computers that aren't doing what we want, right? But if this is your critical computer where you have your research on it, or you have your work on it, or something of that nature, are you comfortable with little Timmy doing this, right? Are you backed up? Do you have access to it somewhere else? And I've seen this plenty of times, especially we had this COVID thing that happened. I don't know if you all heard about it. And in that situation, we had a lot of people working from home, right? And in a lot of homes, they only had one computer and they had no choice, right? Little Timmy needed to do his schoolwork and I needed to do, you know, my work. So, you know, in those situations, same thing. Set up a different account for little Timmy that's different from yours. So when little Timmy gets that virus installed, it should only affect his account. And you're still able to do your research, you're still able to do your work, things of that nature, and you have that nice level of separation. All modern operating systems, you know, Linux, Mac, Windows, Chromebook, et cetera, they all do it. So just create that separate account for anybody who's sharing the home with you. And here's a perfect example of this in play. This is bring your kid to work day. And you'll notice that my employee is sitting there with his beefed up computers, keeping you all safe. And then on the other side is his daughter with her own device, nicely separated from that work computer, never touching it, right? There's a few other easy things you can do. This is more for your personal house, not really if you're living on campus, but you can do things like change your DNS settings for that household. What this does is basically there's a lookup table that happens, kind of like the old school phone books, where when you look up a website, it gives you an internet address. Instead of pointing to the normal ones that everybody uses, you can actually point to one of these companies and they'll scrub it for you. They'll say, all right, you're not allowed to go to malicious websites. You're not allowed to go to places that have viruses, things of that nature. We employ this technology here at the Institute. As long as you're on our network, we're protecting you already. But if you're interested and you live off campus and you want to protect yourself, these are some great free resources to use. And certainly on the security website, we talk about them and how to set them up. So one level of protection that everybody needs and we really need to teach our children about are these. Who can tell me what this is?
Password.
Password, very good. How many people? Show of hands. This is a really good password. Right? Yeah? Yeah, it's pretty good, right? It meets all the requirements, right? There's uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, right? This is a great, I hate this password. This is terrible. And my colleagues at other schools, universities, and institutions, they make their users have passwords like this. And what's worse is they make them change them every 90 days, every 6 months. Anybody here come from an institution that makes you change it all the time? It's terrible, right? Right? No, we don't do that here. We don't do that here. I've done the research and this is an ineffective password. And nobody who is in my position as a CISO should require people to do this. It's ridiculous. Instead, what I suggest is using a passphrase. And the key word there is a phrase. So here's a passphrase. Humpty Dumpty sat on the 8-foot wall. It's a long passphrase, right? But tell me, is this easier to type or is this easier to type? Because I know what you're gonna do with this. You're gonna be like, I can't remember this. I can't type this. I'm gonna take a little sticky note and write it out and put it on my monitor or under my keyboard, right? Nobody has a passphrase under the keyboard, right? Happens all the time. This is a much easier passphrase to remember, to type in, and it's very unique. It has special characters. The space bar is a special character. Has a period at the end, has a number, uppercase, lowercase. It's got all those things in there. And it's so much easier to remember and so much easier to type in. So this is what I highly recommend. And the reason why we don't understand or we don't think that these are good passwords is because of Hollywood. It's because of the movies and TV shows, the CSIs and all of those things where we get pictures of them hacking passwords, right? And I'm going to show you an example. Here is an example of Hollywood hacking. As you can see, they're randomly going through those letters and they're figuring them out one at a time. And oh, look at that, not my real passphrase, only 258 guesses, right? This is how Hollywood represents hacking passwords, and it's completely incorrect. This is not how we do it at all. Instead, this is a more realistic example of how we hack passwords. Now, this is a much smaller one. It's only 5 characters long. I'm only using lowercase characters, right? And so 26 possible possibilities there, 26 letters. Speeding it up a little bit because this is taking a long time to go through. But as you can see, I'm going 1 letter at a time and I'm incrementing up. And I have to try every single one just to get to bingo as my password. 606,000 guesses, not 258. And this is the real simple, not complex at all, sort of thing. So as you can see, the length of the passphrase gives you all the complexity that you need as far as these go, right? And so picking a passphrase is not hard, right? This is how I did it. Come up with 4 words. My dog is ferocious. Okay, that's easy. That's 16 characters, right? Our passphrase policy, sorry, I didn't mention this. Our passphrase policy here at the Institute is 15 characters. I don't care what they are. Uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters. It's always good to pepper those in, but I don't force you to do it, right? My dog is ferocious, 16 characters right there. If you've met my dog, you know my dog's not ferocious. So my dog isn't ferocious, right? I just added 3 more characters and look at that. I got a special character in there. I got a quote. Now I'm at 19 characters. And I don't know about you, but typing in sentences to me is very difficult without the space bar. I naturally hit space after words. So I'll have the spaces in there. Now, all of a sudden, I've got a 22 character passphrase. It's super simple to remember. It's super simple to type in. There's no excuse as to why we can't do this and why we can't use this. Yes?
Wouldn't this be vulnerable to dictionary attacks?
I was hoping you were going to ask that question. Absolutely 100% hoping. So the question is isn't this open to dictionary attacks, right? So, I mean, you're all a lot smarter than I am. About how many English words does the average person know? Right? In my research, it's about 30,000. 30,000 English words that people know and typically use, right? And of course, there's going to be significantly, isn't, dog is gonna be, you know, significantly more used than the word ferocious or something like that. So absolutely, a dictionary attack could be used to make this better. But my question is yeah.
What is a dictionary?
Sure, a dictionary attack is basically where you go through common phrases and dictionaries and you just pick out words, right? So for example, if I went through a dictionary, I'd pick out my cat isn't ferocious, my snake isn't ferocious, and you would just iterate through all of them, much like the previous example where I was iterating through the letters. Now I'm iterating through the words. And there's two ways that I suggest people to do that. One, pick weird words, right? Two, pick a word in another language and mix languages. Three, purposefully misspell a word. And I guarantee you, if you purposefully misspell a word, you'll remember that word much better than if you spelled it correctly, because our brains pick up on the weird things, right? And the things that are out of order. But absolutely, dictionary attacks are something to think about. In practice, from what I've seen, doing this is still more secure than the bad practices we do with the other kind of passwords that I showed you. Great question. Other questions on this? And by the way, this also follows the NIST standards on passphrases, where they said 15 characters or longer. So we are following, you know, a company that did a lot more research than I did, but this is good. Just remember, if you write it down on a piece of paper, to clear it, to shred it, don't just have this piece of paper sitting around, sort of get rid of it. But yeah.
How do we set up these phrases? Because I remember when I came here, I remember the idea of passphrase, but I ended up setting a password.
Right. Sure. So you know, how do you do that? Well, you can go to your help desk and just ask them how to reset your password. And you can do that at any time. We are going to be rolling out a new password reset tool that is to help people reset their passwords. That's going to be rolling out hopefully in the next month. But certainly just send a question to your help desk and they'll tell you exactly where to go. Or you can search our website on Reset My Password, and it's very easy to do. But great question. Yeah.
How do you feel about password managers?
Look at that. Thank you for the segue. So the question was on password managers, right? So what is a password manager or password vault? How many of you have an Excel spreadsheet with all your passwords in it? Right? Yeah, okay.
No,
Thanks, Josh. So, right, and I used to bring around a little notebook that just said my internet passwords. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. It's kind of great. You know, there's no secret in keeping passwords, passphrases. I have literally thousands of accounts with all the different things that I do in IT, and I'm sure all of you have a lot of accounts. How do you keep them all straight? Well, using a password safe or a password vault is a way for you to securely keep those passwords in a vault that's encrypted with a password that only you know, such that if somebody were to steal that password vault, it would take them an extraordinarily long time in order to break into it, right? And especially if it's using something like AES 256 encryption, which is supposed to be quantum safe, so the quantum computers shouldn't be able to hack into it later on. Things of that nature. There's easier ways to get to those passphrases. And we've seen that recently in LastPass, right? LastPass is down there in the lower right-hand corner. It was the password safe of choice here at the Institute and what I purchased for our faculty and staff. However, you know, they've had a number of breaches, which included stealing those encrypted password vaults, including mine. I'm not too worried about it. Again, it was encrypted. That's the whole deal, is that it's encrypted in a way so that if somebody steals it, they can't get to my passwords. And the convenience to me is well worth any little bit of risk that there is in using one of these systems. Not all of these systems are online though. So if you are a more paranoid person than I am, you can use one of these other systems that keeps that password safe on your device. You can keep it on a thumb drive. You can keep it on a secure whatever. There's other devices out there like Multipass, which keeps it in an encrypted HSM. which, needs very high levels of security and things of that nature. I highly recommend using a password safe because it will reduce your risk by not following some of the bad practices out there with passwords and passphrases. But great question. Did that answer your question? Okay, fantastic. Another thing,
Can I
yeah.
ask a question? If you mentioned that LastPass is the institute's of
It's
choice,
until December.
and then are you going to tell us?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we're moving to Bitwarden, which is the one
Okay.
that's right above it. We have the licenses now and we have until December to move to that. It's a really easy transition and hopefully our help desks will be reaching out to help people make that migration. But I find Bitwarden to be, one, Bitwarden is open source. So everybody can see the source code and look through it and analyze it. And two, it's so much faster than LastPass in my opinion, but. And I'm on record saying that because recorded. All right, great. So the other thing is multi-factor authentication, right? And what this is it's something your passphrase and something you have, like a cell phone, something of that nature. Your bank probably sends you a text message when you log in, you have to type in the number. Here at the Institute, we use Duo. Duo security for the authentication, for a push or something like that. Again, something you have and something If somebody compromises your passphrase or your password, they don't have your cell phone. And so they shouldn't be able to log in without having that special code or something of that nature. I highly recommend signing up for Duo here at the Institute and for your personal bank accounts, things of that nature, making sure that they have multi-factor. If you're still at a bank that isn't doing multi-factor today, switch banks. Everybody should be doing this at this point. And this is what it looks like when you log in. You see the nice rainy picture in the back of Fold. I took that. Ask you to log in. And the way that we set up multi-factor here at the Institute is I ask everybody to do it once a day. You do it once a day, it's single sign-on. You should be able to get into the rest of your resources throughout the day in a web browser. And then the next day I ask you to do it again. A lot of other schools, they have all kinds of weird things about multi-factor that I disagree with, but that's multi-factor. Yes.
Is there a reason why we can only use Duo rather than just the open standard, like, TOTP authentication?
TOTP instead of HTTP. So it's interesting you said that. We actually just signed up for a beta of the TOTP. TOTP is, so when you get the code, you can get the code on your phone or other device to type in. It's like a 6-digit number or something of that nature to type in. What we've used traditionally and what Duo has used traditionally is called HOTP. And the idea is that that's the number and you can use that whenever you want. So you generate that number and you can use it a year from now and it's still that same number. It has a lot of risk to it because if that number leaks out, somebody else can use it instead of you. Instead, one of the other standards is TOTP. It's time-based, and every 30 seconds, 60 seconds, it changes. It changes to a new code, and then that way, if somebody steals it, they got to use it right away, or else it doesn't work. The Institute has signed up for a beta with Duo, and we've actually transitioned over to TOTP. So if you look at your Duo app today, you'll see it's counting down. And it's only good for 30 seconds.
Only use Duo rather than, because I want to use the authenticator with my password manager or something.
Sure.
I can copy the vault to it many places.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't have that set up right now, but talk to me offline and we can discuss and see what we can get set up with. Yep, good question. All right, so I always like to talk about the tech obituaries, right? This is all the technology that died in the last year, sorry for your loss. If you're using one of these things right now, you are not getting security updates, period, right? Your device is at risk. So Windows 10, how many Windows 10 users do we have, right? So Windows 10 has exactly 2 years left before no more updates. Right? You have 2 years to upgrade to Windows 11. And Windows 10 21H2, which is the version that came out That one's done now. So you have to go to 22H1. I don't know why they have these weird numbering things. Android 10, if you are an Android user like I am, and you still have an Android 10 device, guess what? No more updates. That's just something, give to your kid, buy a new phone. iOS 13 and 14 are also no longer supported on your iPhone. So if you have an old iPhone, an iPhone 7 or before, iPhone 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they're not supported. No more updates. That is something that's going to get you compromised. Go to 15, 16, or 17. Mac OS Catalina, right? That expired last year. So right now, Big Sur is like the next version, and that's on its last legs. It's got a couple months, and then it's not going to get updates either. You have to make sure that you're upgraded to Monterey, Ventura, or the new Sonoma, which I've heard from my colleagues has some issues. I'm testing it right now. Definitely upgrade to those things. Internet Explorer is dead. If you have a Windows computer, you're still using IE, stop. The Edge browser that Microsoft replaced it with, even though it's based on Chrome, my colleagues have done a lot of looking into it, and it's not as secure as using Firefox, Chrome, or one of the other browsers, especially if you're more into privacy, the Firefox side of things, and some of the other browsers out there. So what about privacy? Is privacy dead? Well, that's really up to you, right? And what you decide to share out there. Facebook, I used to list all the various hacks and break-ins and breaches that Facebook had, but at this point, it doesn't really matter. Anything you put into Facebook, whether you think it's private or not, is not, because it's going to get breached and it's going to get stolen and taken. So be very careful with what you put there. X. X also has the same issues. They've also been hacked and are frequently in the news for that. Everybody loves their TikToks. Don't take my TikTok away from me. There's a reason why the federal government has banned TikTok from all of its devices. There's a reason why my colleagues at other schools and universities have completely banned TikTok. TikTok has had breach after breach. They recently, British regulators fined them for 12.7 million pounds because of not following GDPR, which is the privacy protections over in Europe. So, definitely when I give talks to kids and they're like, how do I get into IT? And I'm like, take out your phones, delete TikTok. Look at that, you have hours to do something else. So, definitely watch out for that. I used to do a monthly breach report where, I make this nice little cloud and I'd be like, look at all these breaches and all these things. And it's kind of a useless adventure now because there's so many breaches, I can't keep up with it. And the big one was in 2017, as I think I mentioned before, where Equifax had a breach and 146 million US citizens had their data stolen, which include your earning records for your whole life, your social security number, your birthday, your addresses, your phone numbers, everything, right? And so what I did, and again, if you take a look at the security website, what did Brian do about the Equifax breach? I learned how to freeze my credit, and freezing your credit is definitely the way to go forward. You freeze your credit, nobody can open a credit card in your name, nobody can get a loan in your name until you unfreeze that. And it's a race between you and the bad guys as to who gets control over freezing your account. So definitely recommend doing that. Security website has all the information on how to do that. What about credit card usage, right? How many of you use tap to pay now? Right? Oh, it's so convenient. So convenient. I can do it with my phone, right? Google Pay, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Everypay, it's so convenient. My credit cards now have it built in, right? When you do tap to pay, it creates an encrypted session between your device, your credit card, et cetera, and the credit card agency. And your credit card number is not transferred during that time. It is so much more secure than swiping, or if you remember the old school at Boscov's where they put the thing down, they do the thing over it, right? So absolutely tap to pay, 100%, move to it. I just wish we did what Europe did, and that's, chip and pin. I really wish I had a pin that I could put in, but America wants it more convenient. So move to tap to pay. I talked a little bit about Facebook. Again, what you put out there might come back and bite you later. And I have an example of that. Had a colleague a number of years ago. We were on a private Facebook group, and he posted a pretty sexist joke. And at the time, I told him, you should really take that down and not do that. And he's like, it's a private group, who cares? 9 years later, he was running for office, right? And this thing got drug out, and he got drugged through the mud from it, didn't win the election. He sent out this email, said, I don't remember it. I don't remember it happening. I'm like, I do. And, so just be careful. What you put out there on the internet stays out there on the internet. Even if you think you deleted it, you didn't necessarily delete it. So, I like to say he had his head in the cloud. That's my segue as to what is the cloud anyway, right? We all hear about putting your data in the cloud. The cloud is somebody else's computer. There you go. That's what the cloud is. How do you protect your data in the cloud? Well, I just told you, it's somebody else's computer, right? So if you're just putting your data out there and you're not encrypting it, like we talked about the password safes, you're done. You put the data out there, right? And then we also talk about the Internet of Things, right? IoT, that was the new buzzword a couple of years ago. What's that? Well, that's somebody else's computer too. It's just in your house, right? And so you have decided to put this other person's computer in your house and give you access to things. So you have to be mindful of who you're inviting to dinner, right? Here's a nice family having dinner, and they invited Alexa or Google or Siri to their dinner, right? We all have these devices. It's very convenient, play me a song, Alexa. But are you surprised when you start seeing the ads of, like last night, we were talking about tennis shoes. All of a sudden today, all I get is tennis shoes in my ad feed, right? So we have to be careful about that. I use Google Photos, right? Google Photos is awesome. Google Photos does facial recognition. I can go into when my dad passed away 2 years ago, I said, I want every picture of my dad so that we can make, the little thing so people, I just went to Google Photos and I just typed his name in, bam. All his pictures showed up. And I was like, this is so convenient. This is great. My colleagues are like, you let Google search your face and do all that kind of stuff? And I'm like, yeah, because the convenience for me, I've made the decision that I'm not putting anything in Google Photos that I really don't care if the internet knows about, and I don't care if Google knows about. But I've made that decision, and that's on me. When you're putting things out there, are you thinking about those things? Are you thinking about everybody in the world being able to see it? So, be a cyber hero, get those sort of things out there. I wanna tickle your paranoid bone just a little bit here and talk about the skeptical scale, right? This is a scale that I came up with where we're balanced on this ridge halfway between being naive and being paranoid, right? I don't want anybody to leave here and start getting out your tinfoil hats and putting them on because, the NSA is scanning your brain or something like that. But on the same side, I don't want anybody leaving here and being naive and not knowing what possibilities are out there. So I wanted to show just a quick video here. And hopefully this plays correctly here. And what I want you to notice is there's some guy up there. I don't know who it is. Some guy up there. And at the beginning, the guy on the left is going to be talking, and somewhere in between, it's going to transition to the guy on the right. Okay, so just keep that in mind.
Hello, Mr. Radley. My name is Condor Mitnick from your bank. We noticed a discrepancy with your charges and wanted to discuss. ¿Has realizado alguna compra en la ciudad de Dublín en el país de Irlanda el día de hoy? No, no lo creímos. Para continuar, solo necesito tu usuario y contraseña. No te preocupes, te haremos restablecerla después de terminar. Genial. Gracias. Empecemos.
All right, so only one of these videos is real. How many people think it's the video on the left? How many people think it's the video on the right? Right? It's pretty good, right? That guy's me, obviously. I wish my Spanish was that good. I really, really do. What's interesting about this video, and I display fake videos all the time because I think that they're fascinating. They're called deep fakes. If you're ever interested in this, go to YouTube, just look up deep fakes. It's fascinating what you'll see. I did this video, this 30-second video with a free company for free. I recorded the one on the left and I sent it to them. And within a day, for free, they sent me back the video on the right. What they did was they took my voice, they translated what I said and made it come out in my voice in Spanish. And then they also changed my mouth so that my mouth was wording in Spanish what was on the right. And I can do this in French and German and a bunch of other languages for free. It's called HeyGen, Heygen. You can do it yourselves. It's a lot of fun. The free accounts, it takes a couple hours for them to send the stuff back. If you need it a little bit more immediate, you can pay for it. It's not that expensive. And it's even getting to the point where now I can do this live. I can get on a Zoom with you and I can do something like this where I'm speaking in English and you're hearing it in Spanish and my mouth is moving in Spanish. And most people won't even know which one is real. So be very careful. I have all kinds of videos showing examples of this, including, you know, last year, a year and a half ago, they did this with Vladimir Putin saying we won the war. And then another one from the Ukraine saying we surrender, lay down your weapons, right? From a high level person. And so we're seeing this all the time. And I don't know if you know, but there's an election coming up. So be very watchful for these things. This is my new favorite website, right? Anybody know what's up with these people? There's something similar about all of them.
They are not true people.
That's right. They're not true people. They're all fake. This is my favorite website. Thispersondoesn'texist.com. It's great. You just go there and you keep refreshing the screen. It keeps just popping up random AI generated people. So, you know, definitely check it out. You don't have to pay them, by the way, to use them in your papers or anything like that. They're not real. All right. This is an ATM skimmer. Again, what this does is it reads your ATM card as you put it in the machine, makes a copy of it, makes a copy of your PIN. Whenever you use an ATM, I always grab the card reader and try to rip it off. This is a charging station. This is a charging station in just in an airport or whatever. And you'll notice on the charging station, there's two USB sort of plugs there. Don't use them. There's something called juice jacking where you plug your cell phone into these. And if set up, there's a computer on the other side that's stealing your data or hacking your phone. So I'm showing the only proper way to use those. Years ago, I gave out these cables. These cables, the data jacks are cut so you can charge with them. It's a charging only cable. I was on a plane the other day. There was no AC charger to plug into. There was only USB, or so I thought. I actually did find one. But you know, if you're Ubering or something like that, you're presented with these cables, and it's like, oh, good, my cell phone's about to die. Plug it in, right? You don't know what's on the other side of that, whether it's a computer or another phone that's hacking. You see these all over the place. And this is what you don't want to see. You plug your device in, and it asks you, do you want to allow the data to happen? And of course, you don't want to allow it to happen. But you get like, you know, this was the giveaway last year, you know, it's a nice charging cable, something of that nature. This is great. The data connections are cut until you get a message like this, which says it's a low power device, right? So you can charge your device, but it charges very slowly. So this year is the giveaway, and I have them up here, is I got a high powered data blocker. And so the idea behind these is you plug them into whatever, you're in an Uber, you plug it into the end of the device and then into your device. It makes sure to block all of that data transfer, but it allows you to charge at a high speed. And here I have the proof. For you Apple users, I'm also giving out these little devices to convert from USB-C to Apple. If you're an iPhone 15 user, you don't need it anymore. Yeah. All right. wanted to just go over a couple quick phishing emails. This is one that a lot of people here at the Institute fell for. Things that, jumped out at me is it came from a computing help desk, but the actual username that it came from was one of our members that year. I didn't know members worked for our computing help desk, but that's great. The other thing is at the Institute, I don't know if you noticed, but that's not really our color scheme. That should be a flag telling you this may not be correct. The other thing I talk about, well, it says your university account, we're the Institute. We don't really call ourselves a university. The other thing I talk about is emails that are too good to be true, too bad to be true. With this one, if you don't react in time, your account's gonna get locked out. If your heart starts beating because something's too good to be true or too bad to be true, stop. Call your help desk. We'll help you out. And if you look at it here, when I hover over the link, it takes you to forgetcea.be. That's obviously an IS site, so don't click on those. Turns out that this was a phishing campaign over at Purdue. Notice the colors, and they were too lazy to change it to us. And again, just hover over that link and just take a look at it. Here's another one, ndfootballquiz.com. This one was great. David Nuremberg, anybody know who that is? Our esteemed director. He sent me this email and he wanted my personal phone number because he wanted to hang out. Dude, I'm so happy. I was like, David wants to be he's new here. How does he wants to be my best friend. That's great. I mean, look at that. David Nuremberg, he wants we're so close. I'm dropping my personal phone number to him, like what up? But no subject, and it's from howardwood46@gmail.com, which was just a compromised Gmail account. So, take your time. Again, that heart starts beating, right? That's your warning. Slow down. And phishing isn't just email nowadays. There's vishing, which is voice phishing. I didn't come up with this. There's smishing, which is SMS phishing. All of these things, they're scams. They're just trying to get to you. They're going to go in whatever way that they can find. The gift card scams, that's another big one. Buy me 50 gift cards. I need to give them out at this conference. That's a common one. QR codes, we see them all the time. This one's for free iBuds. Anybody want to scan? No takers on that? Yeah, just be careful when you scan those things to make sure you read where they're going to go before you let them go. I had another quick video. The number one, Verizon's breach report this year said the number one type of attack that's targeting you and me, the people who sit in these chairs, is something called pretexting. And pretexting is where somebody uses some of the information that they already know about you in order to convince you to give more information. And so I just wanted to show you this quick video on pretexting.
I'm ready. When's the movie? No rush. We have plenty of time. Wow. So you like cats then? I love them. Oh, hold on while I get that. Hello? Yes, I'm Shauna McDonald. Yes, that's my address. Oh, my pet's name. Funny you should ask, because he's right here, aren't you, Mr. Meowgie? Shauna, who is that? It's a very nice man calling for donations for a local cat rescue. How do you know? Well, I can read 9 Live Shelter here on my caller ID. I was just about to give him my credit card number. The kitties need my help. Look, Shauna, there is a chance this guy is pretexting. Are you pretexting? What's pretexting? It's when a scammer creates a false pretext for getting in touch. Like? They may pretend to be research firms, banks, government agencies, internet service providers. Or an animal shelter. Exactly. And while the questions might seem harmless, the name of your phone company, the name of your pet, these bits of information can be used to figure out your passwords or to convince a financial institution the pretexter is actually you. Oh no, but I do use Mr. Miyagi as a password on some of my accounts. Change it now. Oh, what should I change it to? Something secret. Oh, right, okay. Oh, hey, wait, if that guy was pretexting, why did my caller ID say it was an animal shelter calling? Scammers can fake caller IDs now. It's called caller ID spoofing. Oh, so how can I tell what's real anymore? Oh, okay, well, Mr. Miyagi life lesson.
If someone calls you, they are the ones who should provide identifying information.
The cat gives good advice.
Thanks again, Kalyani. Hey, what movie are we seeing?
Garfield.
Really?
No, not really. The Cat in the Hat, actually.
Oh, really?
No, not really.
Oh.
And now, back to tonight's feature, Karate Cat.
So, where did my mouse go? There it is. All right. The cat got it. Okay, so again, we are not the network police here at the Institute. I just want to throw it out there. But the Institute's network is a privilege. So, you know, if you're downloading a bunch of illegal movies and things of that nature, and we get contacted, we are going to contact you about it. Or if you're abusing the network, so please, you know, don't do those things here. I kind of have to say that. Stop, Think, Connect. That's sort of the slogan of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, just like crossing the street. And with that, I know it's it's like just about 5 o'clock. My apologies for going a little over. But I do want to open it up for questions, or I'll hang out afterwards.